Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. This is your teacher Deo and welcome to our pre-recorded lesson in music. Musical styles diverge in ways they had never done before in 20th century. As a result, there was no dominant style throughout this century. Modernism, Impressionism, and Post-Romanticism all date from the decades preceding the beginning of the 20th century, but they are included because they evolved beyond the musical constraints of the 19th century genres that were part of the earlier common practice period. The primary objective of today's video session is for students to be able to recognize, compare, and explain the features of modern contemporary music. The early half of the 20th century also gave rise to new musical styles which were not quite as extreme as the electronic chants and minimalist styles that arose later. Impressionism in music was a trend in Western classical music that centered on a mood and atmosphere, conveying the moods and emotions inspired by the subject rather than a detailed tone picture, mostly in late 19th and early 20th centuries. The term Expressionism was probably first applied to music in 1918, particularly to Schoenberg, because, like Kandinsky, he avoided traditional forms of beauty in his music to convey powerful feelings. Neoclassicism in music was a 20th century trend in which composers sought to return to aesthetic precepts associated with the broadly defined concept of classicism, namely order, balance, clarity, economy, and emotional restraint. It was particularly popular during the interwar period. As a result, Neoclassicism was a reaction to late Romanticism's unbounded emotionalism and perceived formlessness, as well as a call to order following the experimental ferment of the first two decades of the 20th century. The term avant-garde implies a critique of existing aesthetic conventions, a rejection of the status quo in favor of unique or original elements, and the idea of purposefully challenging or alienating audiences. Avant-garde music differs from experimental music in that it takes a radical stand within a tradition, whereas experimental music exists outside of tradition. For the next few slides, I'd like you to concentrate on reading and comprehending the works of various 20th century composers. I want you to listen to this video, and then there will be an activity for you to do later. Activity time! I'd like you to make a video recording of your replies to the following questions using the sample music provided. This will serve as your recitation for this activity. Here are the following questions. Number 1. What is the musical style in the sample music? Number 2. Who is the composer of the sample music? Number 3. Briefly describe your observation on the features based on the composer's use of musical elements in the provided sample music. After you've done recorded your responses, upload your video to our official FB group page for assessment. The deadline for submitting outputs is on September 19, 2021. In the history of music and arts, every period has its own characteristic style which is associated with the society from which it is originated. The period of the 19th and 20th century perceived the two world wars and had been a period of many changes, advancement in technology, a period of many inventions such as the telephone, television, electronic light, computers, cassette tapes, synthesizers, CD players, and many others. Because of this, experimentations were made in the field of music and arts. That's all for this pre-recorded video lesson. If you need further information, please send a private message to our Facebook group messenger. And don't forget to subscribe to our official YouTube classroom for you to be notified to our next lesson. Thank you and have a wonderful day ahead.